Hello friends, so today's video is going to be my April TBR. Jumping into it, I'm going to start with some new releases that I am excited for this month. The first one being The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. This is the sequel to Shadow of the Gods. I probably don't need to talk about this one too much. I know it's very popular. I know a lot of you are already really familiar, but in case you didn't really hear much about the first book, or maybe you're curious as to what it's about, it follows a Nordic-inspired setting, and by Nordic-inspired, I don't mean that we literally have the same gods and goddesses and things like that, but rather the setting itself, this sort of cold feeling, the Viking feeling. We have a lot of that present, and we follow three main perspectives. One who is a mother with a dark past. One is somebody who is trying to make a name for themselves, but you can tell that there is something to their past as well. And then there is a character that seems to be almost like a runaway slave who is trying to push toward a certain goal, and what that goal is you don't really know until the book progresses. Initially, these three perspectives do not seem all that intertwined, but as the story progresses, you start to see little things here and there as to how maybe they're connected, and you're kind of trying to piece it all together. There's also a lot to the lore in the story, and I think that's something I'm most excited about with this sequel, is that I think we're going to be exploring that. Definitely really excited about this one. Also, for sequels, I believe that Fevered Star is coming out, which would be the sequel to Black Sun. I don't know that Black Sun, it seems popular as far as BookTube goes. It feels like everybody was talking about it. It feels like everybody was so engrossed in that story. It was such a page turner. It was such a whirlwind of a book. And then it seems like it's not actually that popular outside of BookTube, but it's definitely one that I think deserves to be because it's very engaging. So it has one of the absolute best openings I've ever read. Don't want to spoil that for you if you haven't picked it up, but it is a story that we follow a character who seems as if they are some kind of chosen one, except for as the story progresses, you kind of question, you question right away. I don't know if you are, first off, and if you are some kind of chosen one, are you a chosen one for good? Or are you a chosen one for evil? And you like this character, but they're very resigned to their fate, and they're not really fighting it, which is the opposite of what we usually see in chosen one type of characters. Usually you see them as reluctant, and this character is like, this is what I'm meant to do, which is very different, and I thought it made for a very interesting change in that trope. And I just found them to be very interesting. And also other characters find them interesting. There are various perspectives in this story, and there's a couple that I definitely think they're a little bit more about the world, meaning that through those characters' eyes you see the world a little bit more, you see the politics and the culture. But that's one of the things I'm most excited about with the sequel, is I think we're going to get more of that in book 2. And then you also, I would say, get a little bit more characterization and personality from that character I mentioned, and then another character as well, and there's something with magic going on with that character that's really cool. So while the book flew by, I actually feel like when I finished it, I almost got done with it. I'm like, I don't really know what's going on in this world. And that's part of the reason I'm really excited about this sequel. I found it to be really fast-paced. I found it to be very interesting. Definitely a setting that we're not accustomed to, because it's not your traditional European-inspired fantasy setting. And the characters were really fascinating to follow, but I do think I'm craving a little bit more of the world when it comes to this one. We also have Kaiki, which is a brand new book that follows a mythology, and we're kind of seeing a character who is typically seen in mythology a certain way, and we're following them in a more human and personal way. And because this is a brand new book, not a sequel, I can't comment further too much because I don't know all that much about it. But it's one that, if you know Jenny from the channel This Story Ain't Over, she has been praising this book. Said it's, I think she says her favorite thing she's read this year, and is probably an all-time favorite. And as soon as I saw that, it was already anticipated release, and then I saw her praising it, and I'm like, ooh, I'm so excited now. And I already was really excited. She just got me more excited. So I'll have Jenny's channel linked if you've never watched her. She's fantastic. But either way, I think we have been seeing a lot of mythology stories, but with a slightly different perspective than what we're used to. And I've been really enjoying books like that, so I'm excited to get to this one. It's not quite as high priority, but I still would like to get to the book In a Garden Burning Gold. I honestly don't know all that much about this one. I talked about it in a recent anticipated releases, so I'll have that linked, and I'll have the book linked in the description bar as well if you'd like to check it out. But just another new release that I'm interested in. Like I said, it's not as high priority, but if I have the time, I'd like to get to this one too. So earlier with Fevered Star, I was saying I think we're going to get a little bit more of the world in that one, and I'm actually potentially going to be picking up the Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. This is the sequel to the 5th season, and that is what I'm hoping to get more of in the sequel. I don't think I'm going to, just because my husband picked up the 5th season because he knew I was going to read it. And then he jumped immediately into this sequel and then already has finished it. And he's like, I mean, you're not going to get a whole lot of answers. So I don't think I'm going to get a whole lot of answers in it. But I guess maybe to rephrase what I was saying, I feel like I need to get to the second book and then maybe I'll get answers in the third one. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I just thought the world was so interesting. And I definitely wanted a lot more of the world in the 5th season, or at least maybe I wanted to know more about it. So hoping to maybe continue on with this one because I do want to read the entire trilogy. A book that was an anticipated release of mine that I did not get around to in the past would be the Conductors. So this is one that I'm hoping to get to this month as well. It's a magical murder mystery and it's an alternate history, sort of right around the Underground Railroad time period. And I know Jesse from the channel Bowties and Books has sung the praises for this particular story. It's one that I've wanted to pick up for a while, and I definitely had kind of a nudge from Jesse to pick this one up. So this is one I'm hoping to get around to. And I know there's already a sequel out, so if I like it, I can jump right into the next one. From there, we have some, what I'm just calling book talk books. So I'm hoping to do a sort of video chat discussion, maybe we'll see, here on my channel about book talk, but I would like to read some more books that I think have either gained popularity because of book talk or have maybe they were already incredibly popular and book talk is making them even more popular. So I kind of want to read some of those books. So the books, I'm just going to list them off really quick. One of them would be The Song of Achilles, because that's a very well-known book and also a book that is very popular over on Book Talk. I've been wanting to read the Atlas Six for so long, ever since I saw Piera praising it. I feel like Piera was way ahead of the game with this particular book, but ever since I saw her praising it, I was like, what's that? And then I checked it out. I'm like, that sounds good. And our tastes don't always overlap, but sometimes we have some that we're both so obsessed with. So I'm hoping that that's going to be the case with this one. And this is one that I think, unlike Song of Achilles, has gained popularity in part because of how hyped it is over on Book Talk. So I've been wanting to read this one for a long time. There's also The Kingdom of the Wicked. And I believe this is kind of like an angsty, tension-filled YA fantasy. And then also we have a book that I can never remember the name of. It's a Hades and Persephone book. I wrote in my notes, Hades book, so apparently I couldn't remember it even when I was making my TBR. But I believe it's more of like a grown-up, tension-filled book. And I'm hoping to maybe do a readathon and get around to a bunch of these over a weekend or something sometime in April. I'm not going to give myself specifics, but I am wanting to pick up a nonfiction book this month, and I am maybe wanting to pick up a thriller. I don't know, I'm in the mood for something like that. Just a couple of non-fantasy books I'm hoping to read. So I don't know which ones I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to let myself be a mood reader and just pick up whatever I want, and I'll fill you in on what I decide when I eventually get around to doing a wrap-up. That's it for my April TBR. I know I mentioned quite a few different booktubers as well as a lot of different books and some other videos. So I'll have everything linked in the description bar down below, but let me know what you're going to be checking out in April. Let me know your thoughts on any of the books I mentioned. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.